This week's word is ice.
Ice is when you take water and cool it and turn it into a transparent crystalline solid. In the mid to late 1800s, people still needed a way to cool their food, and that's when they turned to ice. Now, they didn't have modern refrigeration, so they'd go to large bodies of water that had been frozen and use saws and pickaxes to actually cut the ice out. This was then shipped to places by horse. Ice boxes were designed to be insulated so that when the ice was delivered to homes and businesses, it could then be utilized. Because of the insulation made from sawdust, it gave that extra cooling effect. Now you'd think that with the advent of modern refrigeration, there wouldn't be much need for ice. However, today in just the United States, there's over 400 manufacturers making over 600 million annually. Ice has a lot more uses than you'd think. It's actually used as a building material as well, and not just for things like igloos. Did you know that in 1973, the US Navy was having trouble docking their ships in Antarctica, so they decided to build a pier straight out of the ice. This solved the problem for several seasons before being allowed to melt. A recent phenomenon that's been taking the cold by storm would be ice hotels. They're popping up all over the northern regions, and they're attracting all kinds of visitors from around the world. A lot of the furniture is even made from ice. Hey, you know what's great for life? Not drowning. Right now, there's over 3/4 of the world's water that's frozen in the poles and glaciers. Now, if that was to melt, we'd probably be a couple hundred feet underwater. You know what we haven't talked about in a while? Aristotle. He first discovered something called the Mpemba effect, whereby you could take hot water, cold water, and freeze them, and miraculously, the hot water would actually freeze sooner. Now, nobody really knows for sure why this happens. However, there's a bunch of different theories about it. I'm not going to get into them today, but check out the description below. And if you want clear ice cubes, try using boiled water. If we were ever beamed up to find life on other planets, it would probably be in water or in ice. The reason is that oxygen and hydrogen atoms are among the most plentiful in the entire universe. Now, they're also saying that most of the water here on Earth came from comets from outer space. There's a great link below that cites Minute Earth talking about this. They're even saying that some of this life could have been transported on these comets. The type of ice in these comets is known as amorphous ice, which is different than the kind in your freezer. There's actually 16 different kinds of ice. There's one that's even more dense than water and will actually sink in it. Another form of ice would be dry ice, first found in 1835 by French chemist Charles Thorier. Dry ice is a solid form of carbon dioxide that sublimates straight into a gas. Its temperatures are as low as minus 78.5 degrees Celsius or 109.3 degrees Fahrenheit. On New Year's Eve 2011, Roger Anderson took his 2 children and their friends skiing on the icy slopes of Logan Canyon. The car hit a patch of black ice and skidded into the Logan River, where it turned upside down into the frigid waters. Anderson couldn't see anything in the black waters. After getting himself free from his belt, he managed to escape through a broken window and take a gulp of air at the surface. About 10 men were racing towards the crash to help out in any way they could, led by Chris Wilden, a police officer and military sniper. He accurately shot out the back window and reached in to see if he could find any kids. When he came up empty-handed, he realized that they were all going to have to try and turn the car over. And on the count of 3, against all odds, the men pushed this 3,000-pound car onto its belly. Wilden saw one of the girls conscious in an air pocket and cut her seatbelt with his knife. The other 2 were unconscious and had to be carried to the bank. Both his son and his daughter weren't breathing and didn't have a pulse. After doing chest compressions on him, both the boy and the girl started coughing up water at the exact same time to the relieved cheers of the rescuers. All of the children made a full recovery from the icy waters thanks to the specific help of a chiropractor who knew CPR, a respiratory therapist, a Navy diver, a member of the search and rescue team, and of course, Officer Wilden. In Siberia, there's a level of ice known as permafrost that keeps the ground frozen all year round. If this ice melts, it's going to release a gas of methane, which is over 70 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. If this happens, it'll race the greenhouse effect out of control into territory we've never seen before. If we want to keep the planet for our future and for our children, we have to ask ourselves one question. Will we be responsible enough to keep ice as part of our home? If you want another experiment with ice and a string, and you want to be able to pick up the ice, all you do is you wet the string and then salt it. And let it sit there for a couple of minutes. And what happens is that the salt will melt the ice and refreeze over top of it. And soon, you'll be able to pick up the ice without touching it.